begins, one single moment that would change lives forever. And before I take you deep into it, let me tell you this. If stories of courage, truth, and redemption move your heart, make sure you like this video and subscribe, because what you're about to hear is more than a story, it's a reminder of who we are when the world tests us. The day was heavy with tension. A single dad, a veteran of war, walked into the courthouse quietly. His name was Daniel, a man who carried scars both visible and hidden. He wasn't there for himself. He was there to testify in support of a young woman he barely knew, a woman who had no one else willing to stand by her. All he knew was she had been wronged, cornered by people in power, and his instincts told him he couldn't let her fight alone. That was Daniel's way. He couldn't walk away from injustice, even if it wasn't his battle. As the judge hadn't yet entered, the courtroom murmured with noise. Suddenly, tension spiked when two police officers moved aggressively toward the woman seated at the defendant's table. She looked fragile, scared, but determined. They barked orders, accused her of resisting, and before anyone could make sense of it, one of the officers shoved her down roughly, pinning her arm against the wooden table. Gasps filled the room. This wasn't law, it was brutality disguised as authority. And that's when Daniel stood. His voice cut through the noise like thunder, calm but commanding, the kind of voice only a soldier could have. That's enough, he roared. In one swift motion, he stepped forward, pulling the officers away with a strength they hadn't expected from a man his age. Years of training had never left him. He shielded the woman with his own body, steady, unshaken. The officers tried to push back, but Daniel's grip was iron, his presence overwhelming. For a moment, time froze, the single dad veteran standing against uniformed power, refusing to let fear or authority silence justice. The courtroom erupted. Lawyers whispered, the audience stood shocked, and the woman looked up at him with tears in her eyes. She whispered, "Why would you help me?" Daniel's answer was simple, yet powerful, because I've seen what happens when good men stay silent. Not today. Seconds later, the courtroom door opened and footsteps echoed. Everyone turned. The real judge had entered at last, but then something astonishing happened. That fragile woman Daniel had just defended stood, brushed herself off, and slowly walked toward the judge's bench. The room fell into stunned silence as she climbed the steps and took her seat behind the bench with authority. The officers froze. Daniel's jaw tightened, realizing the truth. She wasn't a defendant. She was the judge. She had been undercover, disguised, testing the very system meant to protect people. Corruption in her courtroom had been rampant, and she wanted to know which of her officers abused their power when no one was watching. What no one had expected was Daniel, an outsider, would step in and reveal the true measure of courage. The officers were immediately stripped of their duties right there in that moment, their faces pale with fear, while the woman, Judge Elena, fixed her gaze on Daniel. Her words carried weight. Justice doesn't need uniforms. It needs hearts like yours. From that day on, Daniel was more than just a veteran, more than just a single dad. He became a symbol in that town, the man who stood when it mattered most. Judge Elena would later call him her greatest ally, and their bond grew into something that went far beyond the walls of that courtroom, founded on respect, truth, and sacrifice. And for Daniel's daughter, watching from the benches that day, her father's actions became the greatest lesson of her life. She realized her dad wasn't just a man with scars, but a hero who carried the kind of courage the world desperately needed. So, my friends, remember this. Sometimes the world doesn't change because of grand speeches or written laws. It changes because someone, somewhere, refuses to stay silent when silence becomes betrayal. That's what Daniel taught us. If this story touched you, if it reminded you of the power of standing up when it matters most, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Because stories like these, stories of real courage and real humanity, deserve to be told, again and again, until justice isn't just an idea, but a living reality. Would you like me to expand this even more with courtroom dialogues, emotional flashbacks of Daniel's past as a veteran, and the judge's hidden plan, so it fully stretches to a 40-minute script-style story for YouTube?